Ollie sits like that.
But he's a tabby?
He's a tabby.
We were looking it up.
Manny never does. He's a tuxedo. Is that the species?
Tuxedo's a species or Manx?
Tuxedo.
I don't think so.
I think it's just like black and white.
You would call George a tuxedo, but
Right.
really,
What is he?
I think just a domestic short hair.
Okay, that's probably what he is then.
I think majority of cats are just interbred domestic short hairs.
Right.
We
Henry.
It finally.
Henry. What are you
Shut the
doing,
fuck up.
bro? Look at him
He's
lapping
grooming.
up. Look, he's like. All right, whatever.
It really dawned on me the other day. We have Margot, our Boston Terrier. I always was under the impression like, ooh, if I'm getting a dog, I'm getting a purebred dog. One that's just got a clean bloodline.
Right.
But purebred just means inbred. So that's why purebred dogs end up having a shit ton of problems. Health problems.
I know.
Purebred German Shepherds, their hips are fucked after like 7 to 10 years.
Well, look at bulldogs. They got breathing issues.
Yeah.
Because
So
their
does
faces
she.
are. Yeah,
So
that's
does
what I'm
she.
saying. She's got like a kind of a pushed-in face.
She can't be outside for too long. We took her on a walk, and it's not a big area, not even a mile. And 1.5 laps in, she just stops, and I had to carry her the rest of the way.
Stop.
Which is fine because she's maybe 20 pounds. But we watched a video the other day on what dogs used to look like. And it's not...
Were they more wolf-like?
They all kind of just looked like your standard mutt-looking type dog.
Right.
A rather long nose. And they all looked very similar. Here's what trips me out. How in the hell do you go from wolf to Chihuahua? Because they've done, I heard on Rogan, they've done some sort of test study, I don't really fucking know, where every dog is traced back to a wolf, including dingoes.
They all are, though?
It all traces back to wolf. So what kind of fucked breeding mixes get a big-ass timber wolf to a Chihuahua? I know the process is they attempted and like domesticated wolves, and then the ones that showed the least amount of aggression were the ones that bred, so on and so forth.
Right.
And then I'm sure you have an easier time of a wolf born in captivity to people that if they're raised that way, they'll be more docile.
Right.
I don't like thinking about it. Like, I love dogs. Everybody loves dogs. We were just talking about the role dogs play over cats. I'm not necessarily... I don't think I would call myself a dog or a cat person because I love our cats.
See,
love
that's
our
kind of
dogs.
where I find myself now because...
I just love animals.
well, yeah, I know. I do too. That's where I stand. And I've always been a dog person, and I've always wanted my own dog. Like, and I've never actually had my own dog before. Mm-hmm. Like, I've grown up with dogs. Like, my mom and my stepdad, we've had dogs, and like my dad has 3 dogs right now. He's got 2 boxers and this pit bull lab mix, Ghost, Harley, and Bruiser, and he loves those fuckers. Like, they're like, his literally the fur babies. Like, my dad loves those dogs.
I never met. I've not met your dad's.
Yeah, you haven't
dogs.
met my dad's dogs. I know you met my mom's dogs. She had Jake and Thor. Jake, rest in peace.
Rest in fucking peace,
Right,
Jake.
and then Thor, he's still kicking it, but she has Luna now, the Catahoula, and they have the pig, and then
Real quick, all the dogs pre-modern day breeding resembled body shape and size the Catahoula.
Really?
Just
Yeah,
a,
like-
a basic looking dog.
basic dog. It's like short hair, like the snout's elongated.
Yeah.
There's a decent tail. I get you. But like, I've never had mine, and even my sister, she has a dog. Like, she adopted a dog from the pound, Reese, Catahoula, pit bull mix, and she loves it, goes everywhere with her. So it's a really nice dog. And but anyway, I live with Sky now. She had Manny, the cat, and then we got Ollie. She brought him home one day, and like I was there already living there, so like that's like the one that I feel like is like both of ours,
Right.
So now I feel like because I did have one cat before, Puka. I had Puka when I lived with the place before I lived now.
Okay.
And
you told that.
yeah, I did tell it, but anyway, she died of kidney failure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I know. So I didn't have her for too long because she was sick. But anyway, so I never got to have my own dog, and it's crazy because, like you just said, like you never really were a cat or dog person, and like I still would say I'm a dog person, but I don't think like I love the cats now a lot, like more than I thought I ever would.
Same with my wife.
You know what I mean? Like I love the cats more than I thought I ever would. So now it's just like I can't picture my life without the two cats.
You're a
You know what
dog
I mean?
person who also loves cats.
Basically, like maybe dogs a little bit more because I can actually have like a full blown like loyal relationship with these dogs, and like they're gonna listen, they're gonna like that kind of thing. And but the cats, like I gotta hand it to them. Like cats have proven to me to be a little bit more loyal than I thought, because like when we like take a shower or something and shut the door, open the door, who's at the door? The cats.
Do they sleep in the bed?
Yeah, Manny does. Manny sleeps at the foot of the bed. Ollie
That's
is
where
up
Henry
all night.
sleeps.
Yeah, Ollie's up all night, but Manny will sleep in the bed. He sleeps right at the end.
But he's
And
the older one?
He's the older one,
So
and that's the one that Sky's had though for a long time.
And so is Henry. He sleeps at the foot of the
Right.
bed.
Ollie's young. He stays kind of up, but Ollie will come throughout the night and he'll try and like suck on us because he still, for some reason, wants to find the teat. He still does the teat thing.
George does that, and he like,
biscuits. They make
That's what it's called?
I mean, that's what people at Gatorland say. They're making biscuits, or that's what Sky says, and they they're doing the fucking dough.
Crouton, my parents' cat, he's a Siamese Himalayan. We told the crazy Crouton
God,
story.
he's so legendary. I love Crouton.
He's turned much more grouchy, but I mean, he's a grouchy old man. To this day, his whole 12 years, 13 years of existence, he's found like those fuzzy fleece type blankets, and he makes biscuits, but then he chews on it. And we had this thing called a kitten mitten, which is a glove you put on and the fingers extend out to like here, and there's balls with bells in them, and that's his favorite toy. We got that.
That's kind of cool. I might have to get one of those.
Yeah, I think I'm sure you could.
I mean,
find
the laser's classic, but that'd be switching it up.
Yeah, but he will only when he thinks someone's not around walk around with it in his mouth and just whines. One time, I guess he assumed my parents were gone. I was in my room, and he thought nobody was home, and he's walking around just like.
What is he like trying to get someone to play with him?
No, I don't know. No, he's just, and he only does it when nobody's around. It's almost like that's his little guilty pleasure. Yeah, it's something somewhat
toy.
Sexual, but he will take just one finger of it and drop it in his water bowl and let it soak, and then takes it out and just sucks on it.
Ooh, man, that crouton, you freak, bro.
The thing I love about cats a little more, my appreciation for cats is in their complicated personality.
Yes, they're very complicated. They're way more like, yes.
And you have to, a cat, for the most part, Henry's a little rare, isn't just going to let you in. You have to earn their loyalty.
Right, Henry's a little different. Like immediately, day one when I met him, he's just like, what's up? Pick him right up.
He's the friendliest, most social cat definitely I've ever had, but that I've ever seen.
Right.
And he's very accustomed to change. He'll go anywhere, do anything. And I think I mentioned it in an earlier episode, but Henry's story, we think he's like 6 or 7, and somebody brought him to the rehab I was at. They had to check themselves into rehab and had nowhere to put the cat. So they're like, I mean, it's a farm. You can let him do his thing around here. So I think they kept him in like one of the stables.
Did they feed him, or was he like catching mice and shit?
He was probably catching mice, but then clearly they fed him. Look at him.
Yeah, that's true. That's true.
And then
how can he not? Like, you know how it is when you see a stray cat, you're like, oh, buddy, this is the cat. He's hanging around. We feed him. We give him water. You just can't.
I'm
help
sure
it.
he probably got fed a lot more than he definitely got spoiled there. He was there before I had to check in, and the girl left and
Never took him.
Never took him. So
Fucked.
I was there for a while. One of the other people who was there, she was an alumni, and there was a house on property. She was out of the program, like she finished her treatment, but they let her stay there, and she took him and would watch him for a while. But it got to the point where she was out of town too much, and I would have to go over there to her house when she was gone and feed him and check on him, change his litter box. And then it got to the point where the girl offered, would you like him? Do you guys have room for him? And I talked to my wife, and we took him, brought him with George. There was like 2 days of territory. Henry was spraying. George has never sprayed, like piss.
Yeah.
And that does not smell like piss. It's different.
Right.
It's like when a snake musks.
Ugh.
Eventually, I think Henry won out because he's definitely the alpha. He's got that more of a.
He's got that swagger to him, you know.
His belly shakes when he walks in a certain type of way. But then we had him for probably a month, and then that girl calls the rehab and was like, "Give me my damn cat." And they instantly were like, "The second you stepped off this property without him, you lost all right to him. Sorry, he's got a good home now." And she was pissed.
Hey, well, fuck her.
I fully agree with
First
that.
First off, you can't just backtrack on your decisions. And that's a good point to an argument that we can have, giving up your fucking pets.
Sometimes it's a very tough but responsible decision.
Sometimes it is, but also too, like, but right, like you have to own that decision. Like if it wasn't right for you to take the cat after she left, then you got to live with that decision, because now you can't take it away from someone who stepped up to the plate. You know, that's fucked.
And how you go about getting rid of your animals.
Mm-hmm.
Are you that piece of shit
who just leaves them?
Yeah, leaves it in the house, puts it on the street, takes your rare reptile to the Everglades
and lets it go. I mean, that's a little different, but
I think the same principle behind it. It's somebody couldn't handle the maintenance of caring for a snake, an iguana, whatever, and wants the easy way out. So they're like, well, it'll be happy out here, or it'll get killed and I don't have to worry about it. Either way, it's out of my life.
And I think there's different tiers to that, and there's different consequences. And I think when you let go of like those kind of animals, like the snake or the iguana, it's like, yeah, sure, that thing's probably not going to give a fuck what you do with it, because they don't have the capacity to, an emotional capacity. But it's irresponsible on your part, because that thing doesn't live here. Like and clearly the damage is done, and there's 250,000 of Burmese pythons loose, and they're never going to go away. Like, it's just is how it is, and they eat things. Like, they get big enough to eat a fucking dog. You know what I'm saying?
They try to eat deer.
Right. So, and then there's the flip side where people do that same shitty thing to cats and dogs. And, like, sure, there's stray cats and there's stray dogs, and, like, a lot of people will adopt them later. But it's like, bro, emotionally, you're fucking that animal up, And it's just not fair. It's not nice. It's not cool at all. And I hate that shit. Like, when it always happens when hurricanes come through. People leave their fucking pets.
I remember, I have this vivid memory.
And it's just like, well, I was going to say real quick before you say it, before your vivid memory, it's like when you commit to the animal on day one, like you have to see it through.
They are like a child, a little less involved. Right,
a little less involved, a little less needy, but like nonetheless, like they're not wild animals. These are domesticated animals.
Oh, man.
That's the difference. Like a Burmese python is a wild animal. And yes, it will survive, and it will eat things. Shouldn't be doing that here in Florida, but it's not going to give a damn what you did with it.
No, I don't think there's...
But these cats and dogs, they're domesticated. They they have an emotional capacity. Mm-hmm. And it's just like, they were under the impression that they're with you, and then you just said, peace. And like, they're scared on the roof of a car in a flood now. Like, oh my God. Anyway, your vivid memory.
During Katrina, watching the news coverage of it, and one of the newscasters was saying, listen, for your pets, leave the toilet open, fill the bathtub with water. If you're just going to dip, do that. That just sticks out in my head.
At the very least.
Well, that's a moral and ethical dilemma, because no matter what, as much as I love dogs, if a dog is attacking me, my wife, or just somebody I love, a child, I will every single time choose a human life over in an animal life. If it comes to this dog is attacking a little child, I have no shame in snapping a dog's neck. It sounds like, oh, how could you? I'm sorry.
But it's okay, because on the flip side, if it was a human attacking a little child, I'd still have no problem with inflicting damage on the human.
Right.
So it's I feel like that's okay, because if you were to replace the dog with like a fucking freak who was like assaulting someone, it's like I would have no problem doing the same thing to a dog attacking someone, that if it's a human, and that I could do something about it, you know? So that's all right. I get that. And you're right. Like,
it's tough.
It's tough.
I would be traumatized having to kill a dog. And I'm not going to say I would immediately jump to Call of Duty, press that center button, snap the dog's neck. I will do, but I know I'd have a very tough time detaining a dog. I don't think you can just bear hug a dog and it'll stop.
Well, bro, you want to hear a crazy story?
Yeah.
My buddy, I'm not gonna say who or anything, but he had 2 pit bulls at one time, and he had the one for a long time. I've met them, and I met the dogs too. He had 3. Two of them he had, and they're all full-bred pit bulls. One of his oldest one, the girl, she's older. She's so sweet. She's a nice dog. She's so friendly.
Very affectionate dogs.
And they had taken in another dog, the 2 people that lived in this house, my friend and his roommate or whatever, and the dog did not get along with the other 2 at all.
Another pit?
Right. But he was really friendly with the cat they had. So the cat and him were like really good friends, but they literally, it was so bad they had to have them in different rooms. They couldn't come out at the same time, and because they got into a fight at one point.
Yeah.
And they had to split it up, and it kept happening, and like they had to be really careful of when to let one out, when to let the other one out, but he wanted to try and make it work because the dog was so nice to people. The dog that was getting in fights with his dogs, and of course because this dog was new, he's not going to give up the dogs he's had for 9 years.
Right, that's another tough decision you have to make.
So anyway, it finally it happened again, and he tried to break it up, and he's trying and trying and trying. Here's crunch. Pinky's dangling.
God damn.
Had to go to the hospital and had to be admitted. Stay overnight. Had to do reconstructive surgery and fix his finger. Luckily, works. But the good news is they ended up finding a home for the dog. And everything.
Good.
They did. They worked really hard. Because they kept him. Even after that, he still kept him and didn't give up on him.
That's rough.
But found a home for him. No other dogs. Big yard and shit like that. And these people took him in. But yeah, dude. So it's you're right. Getting in the middle of that, containing a dog, if it was a situation, human or not, or whatever the case may be. It's when they're in that mode, they're strong. It's crazy.
And pit bulls, correct me if I'm wrong, I think they get a pleasure sensor that goes off with fighting. I think they enjoy to fight.
I don't know anything about that. I think
know they were bred to be not fighting each other dogs, but like a self-defense dog.
No, I thought they were bred to herd or to deal with
pit bull
bulls or something.
I don't know enough about
I don't know enough about pit bulls either. I just know that they have a bad rap for the most part.
I will be 100% honest. Oh, here we go. Here's a story the other day. I'm in my living room, and I see a dog in my yard. It's a pit bull. And
Here?
in this front yard.
Oh, in the front yard.
Yeah. I'm like, okay. It has a collar. So obviously I do not take our 20-pound Boston Terrier out there. But I go out and I'm very nervous. And I'm like, I got to get this dog near me to see its collar so I can get it to where it needs to go.
Wait, correct me. You had Margot out with you or no?
No.
Oh, okay.
She's inside going nuts. Because this thing, is in my front yard. And I don't have much of a front yard. And there's cars that zoom down this road. So I don't want the thing to get hit. I don't want to get bit. But so I go out there, call it over. I tried to very much have a chill energy. I think that's the biggest thing you can do with animals. I think that's why you have such good success with animals. And Margot, our little dog, is a little skeptical, but she took to you quicker than she takes to other people. I think because you put out a neutral, good energy. I learned that with horses.
Right, and I have to because I'm with animals all day at the park.
Well, and just a quick note on that, the difference it makes. Like, animals know. Some animals are just going to wig out and bark at you even if you have a good energy. Dogs, rather. I don't really subscribe to the people who say, if my dog doesn't like you, you're a bad person and I don't like you. Because at the end of the day, it still could be just a dumb fucking dog. And there are bad dogs out there. I love dogs, but some dogs suck. It is what it is. So I go out there, put a good energy out. I call it over just in a calming puppy dog voice, like, come here. And I eventually learned it was a girl, comes over pretty fast at me, is charging at me. I'm like, shit. This is either the moment. Runs up and instantly rolls over and shows me its belly and like to rub it. Sweetest dog ever. Turns out it was my literally across the street neighbors, had a collar, said, my name's Layla, I'm really friendly. And the address was on there.
Nice.
So I just...
Did she get out or was she...
Yeah, she got out.
Oh, okay.
They have a fenced-in yard. They said she escapes all the time. So I literally just picked her up, and she's just loving life. She was like the nicest pit bull I've ever met. But point being, I still get very hesitant and nervous when it comes to pit bulls. That stereotype in my head has not gone away.
Whoa.
And I've met... Honestly, it's either one way or the other, because pit bulls are seriously some of the most affectionate, loving
it can be
dogs.
one way or the other.
Yeah, and it does depend on how you raise it. That's the common thing. People, well, how do you raise it? Now, I could raise my Boston Terrier to be a shithead, and she could bite people. The dogs are a clean slate. I don't think dogs are born bad.
Right. Kind of like how humans are born not knowing hate.
I agree.
It's funny you say that because I got a couple stories here. But the one, my dad's dog, Ghost, my dad and my stepmom's dog, it really was originally my stepmom's daughter's dog. But she, is married now to a Marine and they live in Japan. And they couldn't bring him with them.
Right.
And there was this whole thing where, like, my parents were going to keep him for a little bit. And then my stepmom's daughter's dad was going to keep him for the rest of the time. But anyway, he bailed. Long story short, they still have the dog like 3 years later almost,
It's a pit?
It's a mix. It's a pit and lab mix.
Okay.
It looks more pit than anything. He's got a big head.
Pit is, I think, the dominant gene when it comes to breeding.
Sure. Like
when they get that square head.
People think he's a pit every time they see him. And but anyway, he's big, he's loud, he's got a lot of energy, he's still young, and he gives the other dogs a run for their money. Like Bruiser's alpha, even though he's a white boxer, he still maintains his alpha status.
Boxers don't fuck around.
He was the first dog my dad got. And like they'll fuck around all the time. But anyway, when they go on walks, they have to walk Ghost. Usually one person has Ghost, and then my dad usually, and then my stepmom will walk Bruiser and Harley, them together, because they're older. Like Bruiser's like 6, Harley's like 3, almost 4, and Ghost is the youngest. But like the whole neighborhood is scared of Ghost because he'll bark at any dog that he sees, and he's really more bark than bite.
Yeah, he's just excited.
He's excited, but he's big, and like, you know, like the next door neighbors, they have a smaller dog, and then like the older guy who lives there, he's like scared of ghosts, and my dad's just like, he's not gonna do anything. They're like, control your dog, blah blah blah, and he's just like, and like the dog's never done anything, you know.
Right.
He just has a lot of energy, but he can be scary, like, because when I go over there, who has the most energy, who's pouncing all over you? It's fucking Ghost, and you're just like, get down. Like, I mean, I have, you know. Because my dad spoils them. Mm-hmm. They're trained. Like, he can be like, go to the crates, you know, and they'll all three
that's
go.
Good.
All
that's
three
a good
will,
place to have them.
All three will
Not
go.
the crates. I'm saying like that's.
Yeah, like they'll listen to him because obviously my dad is the alpha
Real
to
alpha,
them.
yeah.
You know, so they'll listen to him and like, you know, he has to shout one time and they'll, you know, come back. But when it comes to guests in the house, like, you know, they're going crazy. They're all over you. And Ghost is like, he's really jealous. Like, if you're giving too much attention to the other two, he'll like come push the other one out of the way. But he's never, he doesn't bite. He doesn't do anything or anything like that. So, but I can see how the stereotype rings true to other people and they say like, oh, you know, but like, it's okay. It's okay. He's got a lot of energy. And then the other story I was going to say was kind of like your story where you found the pit bull in the front yard. So I had taken Manny and Ollie to the vet. And
at the same time,
and they told they told me I was crazy.
Yeah, that's a lot.
And I took, and you know what's the best part is, I had one cat carrier.
You doubled them up.
I carried Ollie because Ollie I don't trust because he always wants to go out the front door. I put him in the cat carrier, and Manny's a loyal steed. He don't like outside. He'd rather be in the house. I carried him, and. Which, yeah, you know, was a kind of a mistake.
Well,
I learned the hard way. So anyway, I go in, and the whole story. I'll just tell you the whole story. So I go in first, and it leads up to a dog story.
I'm getting these chips.
So I go in, and I bring in Ollie. And I put him I put him on the bench, and there's like mad dogs and stuff. This vet's very popular because it's affordable, so it's busy all the time. And I'm sitting there on the bench, and I have Manny in my lap, and like I'm like, you know, trying to keep him calm, but he does not like the vet. Sky warned me, and she told me, she's like, hey, he's not really the biggest fan of the vet. Like, they have to put on the file like will bite, you know, type thing. And you know, I'm petting him, and he's already like. The whole time, and like luckily I've gained some trust with him, so he's okay with sitting on my lap, and I'm just, you know, scratching him, and people think I'm nuts. I don't really realize this till afterwards when the vet's like, no carrier for him, and like, you're crazy. And I was just like, oh shit. I was like, I don't know, clearly I'm new to the cat game.
Was he like upset you didn't have him in a carrier? Like,
no, she wasn't upset, she just thought it was ballsy. You know, and I learned, and this is why. What happened was, so I'm like, you know, petting him, and like every time I'd like touch him like a little too hard petting him, he would like turn around like thinking it was time to like do vet stuff, you know? He was on edge, and he's like growling at all the other stuff, and I'm hoping he doesn't bite me because I don't know what to expect yet, because they were getting a shot, each of them. And I'm like, you know, scratching him, and it was our turn to go in, so I like pick up Manny, and he's being good so far, and I bring him in, and I put Ollie on the thing, and I'm waiting in my little room for the vet, and like I'm stroking him, and I'm trying to hold him so he doesn't go anywhere, because obviously I realized this is probably a bad idea that he's not a carrier at this point. And I was like, he was being good, he was calming down, so I like kind of loosened up a little bit. Mistake. As soon as I like loosened up my grip on him, off my lap, and just sprinted through the vet. And I was like, fuck.
Through the whole office?
Out the room.
Oh, God.
And I fucking had to chase him, and he ran through, and he found him in another room where a dog was like in a cone, like getting worked on. And like, I got lucky because I cornered him, and like he like kind of like got down like this, like looked up at me like, shit, you got me. And I'm like, I'm going to get bit. And I had to grab him, and I just picked him up, and he didn't bite me. I'm like, oh my God. And I bring him back to the vet. And like, cause it was funny, cause as soon as he hopped off, cause the waiting room can see where he ran. They were all like, oh, you know, when they do the, oh, when something happens, like, oh, you know, like, oh, there he goes. You know, like,
we told you.
Like, all the animals are going to go crazy because you brought this fucking cat in without a cat carrier, you fucking imbecile.
A little bit.
So I pick him up finally, and I'm like, shit. And I go back, and I'm like, you're embarrassing me. I'm like, you're embarrassing me. Stop. You know, and I'm like talking to him, and like I look like a crazy person. And I'm like, all right. So the vet comes in. They have the table. And like they pick him up and they're like, all right, so we're gonna give him these shots. And like, and she's like, okay, we're gonna have to go do this in the bathroom. And she takes him back, does Ollie. Because even Ollie's the sweetest, like, meow, meow, like super nice, doesn't bite, does nothing. They both hate the vet. So I found that out. So anyway, so at the end, the vet comes, she goes, okay, so they're really pissed. Well, we got everything done, but we're gonna let you borrow a cat carrier to take them both home in.
Good.
And they're like, can you just bring it back? And I'm like, yeah, sure. I was like, thank you so much. So they let me borrow their cat carrier. Went home because I was really close to the vet, dropped them both off. And, you know, they're like back home. They're like, God, fucking hate that shit. You know, they're like back to normal. And like, I let them out. I'm like, all right, I got to go bring this back. And I had to get flea medicine anyway. So I was like, I'll just come buy this flea medicine that they recommended that was better than Frontline. So I came back, bought the medicine, gave him back the cat carrier. But when I walked up, or when I was about to leave, this Spanish lady is like trying to get her dog, like this little short Spanish lady, trying to get her dog to go into the vet. It's a German Shepherd, full grown. And it's just not, it's like putting its paws down. It's like not wanting to go in the door. And she's like, come on, let's go, come on. And I'm like, trying to help her. I'm like, come on, it's okay, sweetie, you know, blah, blah. And she's like, you know, just not wanting to go in the vet, like hates the vet clearly too. And I'm like, oh shit, this is a German Shepherd. Like, I don't know this dog. And then like, I'm trying to like help her. And all of a sudden he's backing up so much, slips out of the harness, runs. Parking lot full of cars. This is like a plaza. Dogs running. And I'm like, oh shit. And I'm like, I've got to help this lady. Luckily, the cats are home, and I'm just got me.
If you had, I would have been no chance,
dude, no chance. So I'm like, I have to help her. She's like so small, she couldn't even get this dog through the thing, and I'm the only one out there. Like I was like holding the door. Anyway, so I'm like, so I like run out there, and I see the dog like kind of like far away, and it's kind of walking back, and I like just get down on the ground. I just get down on my knees, like, come here. I was like, come here, like just like super like inviting, doing my best. I don't know what the hell I'm doing. Just trying to seem as not threatening as possible. Dog's walking up. She comes up to me. We're at like eye level. I'm like petting the dog's face. And then I just kind of wrap my arms around the dog. And I'm just like, good girl. It was a girl German Shepherd. I'm just like petting her. And I'm like embracing this German Shepherd. I'm like, because like just like you said, when the dog was coming up to him, like, I don't know what this German Shepherd's going to do. But luckily the dog was super nice. And she did the same thing, laid down and kind of like gave the belly. And then that's when they got smart. The vet let her use a crate. They brought the crate, like a dog crate. And we put her in the crate and we just carried the crate in through the front door. That's
something. I'm looking up.
I know.
It popped in my head. I remember a while ago being surprised at dogs that are most likely to bite or have the most data on that. This is based on data regarding dog attacks in the U.S. and Canada between 1982 and 2014. The dogs most likely to bite humans are pit bulls.
Oh.
Yes. Rottweilers, pit bull mixes, shepherds, mastiffs, wolf hybrids, huskies, and Akitas.
No kidding. I got bit by a Rottweiler. Did I tell you that story?
No.
Because obviously you know Thor.
Right.
Thor is, my mom and Kenny's dog, and he's an OG.
Sweetie.
Fucking sweet. Love that dog. So loyal. Will listen to a goddamn stranger. Like, Thor! He'll come. Doesn't matter. And, but anyway, they had, because the reason they like Rottweilers so much is because when my stepdad met my mom, he had a Rottweiler named Sam. Like, that was like, it's his favorite breed of dog. And, obviously Sam, eventually wasn't around anymore. So they wanted to get another one later in life when they were living together and they had my brother and sister, and they got one. They named him Tonka. Well, Tonka had possession issues over socks. He would steal socks from the laundry, and you could not get the sock back. Like, he would growl and like not let you have it. And he bit me and Kenny one time.
Damn.
Yeah, he bit, like, Drew Blood type bite. And it could have been worse, but it was like over the sock. It was always over a sock. So like, he was a nice dog most of the time, but it was the bites. And because they were worried about Madison and Logan.
Yeah, little kids.
Right, because they were little, so they had to find a home for them. And then, so they figured they'd give it a shot again. This is the best. Years later, and they buy another Rottweiler, and they get it, little puppy, tiny. Weeks go by, months go by, and the dog isn't growing. And they're like, what the hell is this? Like, they went to a breeder, supposedly, for this dog, and it's not growing. Come to find out, they got ripped off. It was a different breed that had the same markings as a Rottweiler.
Wow.
And it wasn't a Rottweiler.
Was it like a min pin?
It was like, no, it wasn't even a min pin. I can't remember the exact dog it was, but it had the brown and the black. Mm-hmm. And eventually they realized, okay, this is something else. They found a good home for it for these college students or something in UCF area, and they took the dog. And then that's when Thor. And then finally, like, all right, we're going to find a legit breeder, you know, because they wanted to get a Rottweiler finally. They drove down all the way to, like, fucking Miami, bought Thor, and then they have Thor today. But I thought that was so funny. I was like, that's insane. But yeah, that was my only dog bite ever. Like, bad one.
I'm pretty sure that happened to my parents. Jet and Blue are supposed to be full-blown Aussies, and they are not. They're even smaller than minis.
Yeah, as I say, because Australian Shepherds are bigger than your parents' dogs.
They are little, like, sausages. They're fat and short.
Which one's the one that's very clingy again?
Jet.
Jet, that's right.
He is obsessed with my mom. He's got a compulsive licking problem. And, yeah, he follows her every move. The only time I got bit was doing pest control. There was a couple times I might have gotten bit. Well, I've had chihuahuas get my finger, and that shit hurts.
Little bastards.
Bad.
Akito, Taco Bell.
I do not. I've met like one chihuahua that I fucked with in my whole life. And he was pretty chill, and he's probably 100 years old. Yeah, and when they get old, they get like the warts and shit. Ugh. I do not like chihuahuas, and I don't care about saying that. I went in, I knocked on this person's door. Been there before. The dog probably doesn't know me, but I mean, I've been there before. Guy opens the door, dog's barking. I'm typically cool with dogs. And the dog sniffs me, just kind of checking me out. I'm like, hey, buddy. I go to walk away, and I guess the dog wasn't done with me petting him or saying hi. Gets me right on my ass cheek. It bruised pretty bad. It didn't break skin. This was some type of mastiff. It might have been a bull mastiff, but I don't know. He had that like brindle type color.
Right.
And the dude was so embarrassed, and you could see he was kind of worried, like, is this guy gonna
sue me?
Yeah. I'm just like, it's fine. I didn't care. It hurt. But right on my ass. Which I guess I'm grateful it happened on my ass where the most meat is.
Right.
Because anywhere else that could have been bad. I truthfully just think he was pissed, like, hey, get back here. But yeah, that dude was pissed.
I got one more dog bite story I want to say, but just give me 2 seconds.
Wait, you got to pee?
Yeah.
All right, I got to pause it.
All right.
If we're talking about dogs, we got to have a dog in the cast. I
just kissed the mic.
Don't do that.
Come on.
You were...
story.
Yeah.
So
other dog
it's
bite story.
one more dog bite story. So
I could do dog bite stories for days.
This isn't about...
Well, I don't have any for days, but I like
this.
them.
This didn't happen to me. This happened to my uncle. This is actually a pretty heavy story.
Yeah.
So my grandfather died last year on May 5th. And there were people present for when the moment happened. And it was like my two sisters, my aunts, two of my aunts, and my uncle. And they were like there, and my grandmother, of course. And they were there by the bedside and the whole nine. And, you know, they could tell it was happening. And the next door neighbor was like a priest. The new neighbors that just moved in. This is like my childhood grandparents' home that we're talking. Then like that house next door, like they were friends with the people who lived there before. House, you know, the they died and the new people moved in. And the guy was a priest or used to be a priest or something like that. And just a little bit before my grandfather passed, he was over there. And he was talking to them, and he was, like, saying all this stuff about, he, like, basically just prayed with each and every one of them. And, like, said some things like, you're facing troubles. Almost like, I don't want to say a psychic, but, like, just saying, like, things, and like my sisters would tell me later, like, oh my God, it was just so weird because it seemed like it was like he was saying stuff that was spot on, and and he was like, left. He like left and went back home, and then like an hour later, my grandfather was like, the breathing was slowing, like it was happening. So they were like, go get the priest, have him come over and to pray while the moment's happening. I mean, this was a whole thing, and they ran over, and my uncle and my sister did, and they knock on the door, and when they open it, their dog attacks my uncle and bites his leg. And after the whole thing, they had to go to the hospital to like get it checked out and make sure it was all right. And then they came back, and he like did some like where they don't speak English, priest talking,
speaking in tongues.
Yes. That's
not really a Catholic thing. Is he a Catholic priest?
No. I don't know.
Okay. Speaking in tongues is very Pentecostal. I don't
think they knew what he was, but I think he just started saying, and they're like, oh, shit. Like... Yeah, or something. And
keep going.
So anyway, that's the story, but it was just a crazy series of events.
That's awful. That's the worst thing I've ever heard.
Well, it wasn't. It was still a good, like, I'm glad that my family was there. If somebody's going
to pass away, that's the best way for it to happen.
But it was just very weird.
That's an eerie...
It was eerie. It was very eerie. And, like, my sister called me afterward. Well, like, because, like, we weren't there. We had left, me, my dad, and my brother. And I still carry this guilt a little bit. Because we had to go get to Michigan to get these fucking, cars.
Oh, right.
Because... there was a certain time frame we had to do it, and like we had planned this weekend. We weren't sure when it was going to happen. We knew it was going to happen soon.
And this is your dad's dad?
Yes.
Okay.
And we FaceTimed him like driving up, and because they were saying they were thinking it's close and like it was too far gone, and like we made it to Michigan. We literally drove nonstop, went, got these things taken care of, and then hit the road immediately. Didn't stay the night. Didn't do anything. And we're driving back, and we're like it's like it was like this silent, like we knew what could happen, but we're all just like, just go. We're going back, because we almost didn't go, and everyone's just like, just go, like it's fine, he's not comprehending anything anyway.
Okay.
And
was hospice involved?
A little bit. Yeah, they came over and stuff.
Well, they give them stuff so they're not in this constant pain.
Right. And we're driving back, and then I see my phone, and it was my sister, and she told me. And, like, we were, like, halfway back.
Damn.
And, but then they told me the whole story of everything that happened, and they're basically like, don't feel bad. It just seemed like everything was meant to happen how it happened, because it was just, like, Haley, like, left, my sister, like, left work to come just to visit, not knowing that it was going to happen. And it happened. She couldn't go back to work because she was like, a mess. She was over there with my uncle when the dog fucking went after him. And that was like the only like monkey wrench in that whole thing. Like, we're like, why?
It's very strange.
Why did that happen? And my uncle Mark, is a man of God. He's very godly. And like, he's, done weddings and things like that. Mm-hmm. He did like my cousin's wedding. So it was just very, very, very weird.
That's bizarre.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody we went to acting class with, I went to their church, and they were heavily into tongues and revival and...
ED?
No. You know who it is.
Frail and skinny?
Frail? It's a man.
Older?
Ish. Who was very religious in our group?
I can't remember.
Angel.
Oh, yes. Yeah.
I love Angel. He is my example of an excellent human being.
Yeah.
Angel is just a great guy. And he's got great intentions. And I'll say he was a pretty damn good actor. I thought he did well. I was glad he was in the class. I really
liked him.
He was a cool guy. Don't have a bad word to say about him. But his church, he invited me, and I was going through my revelation in my own life. And I will say this. I don't necessarily buy into the theatrics of everything they were doing, but there was an energy and a vibe in that room that you felt that was palpable. It was real. They let me do a song. This is when I was doing Christian rap.
You rapped for them?
And I almost had, this shows you the content creator in me, almost had the kid who was filming for me go. I was living in Ocala at the time. And I was almost like, I knew the kid in Ocala. I almost was like, I'll pay you to come down here. He's like, man, Orlando's way too far. I was like, I'll pay you. And he didn't want to, so I was like, don't worry about it. That, you would have thought I was performing at like the Grammys. Like they just went nuts.
Did they really?
Oh, and they loved it. And I was just in it. It was like one of my emotional songs. There's people on their knees and I think they were just worshiping God in their way. I don't judge them. And I don't think it was about me, but the selfish.
You were the vessel.
Yeah, well, the selfish artist in me was like, oh, I wish that was on camera. Because that was like the best reaction I've ever gotten to my show. Because when I was doing Christian rap, and this made me think this, when you and I are talking about in the future doing a live podcast, I've got like PTSD when it comes to live performances, because for years I would do shows for sometimes as little as like 6 to 10 people. And it was it's humbling. It's difficult.
Well, it's like me. I did Venus and Fur for 2 people.
Really?
Yeah.
I bet you that had a different type of intimacy to it, though.
Oh, man, was it weird. In a good way, though.
Yeah. I've heard comedians talk about they'll purposely go out of their way to get the last spot of the night somewhere where there's like 3 people in the crowd who have stuck it out and stayed that long, because then they know that's where they'll get the most honest reaction. They won't get the laughs based on the fact that you're Crystalia.
And everyone else is laughing.
Yeah, and everyone likes you. They're predisposed to laugh at you. That's why Chappelle will drop into these podunk little clubs where I'm sure they know him. By this point, he's pretty fucking famous. But he just drops in very randomly and is like, can I do a set? At Uncle Fucker's Chuckle Hut.
Like, here? Yeah, you gave.
It's really genius, though, because that's where you'll get the most honest reaction.
Yeah.
But I can envision us in, like, if we tried right now to do a live Somewhat Savants, it would be to the 8 or so people. Your phone's right there.
I know. I for some reason
Where is it?
I know. See, that's the problem. But I think it'd be cool though, if anyone even was there, because luckily we both had that experience with dealing with a small amount of people. So it's like I'd be prepared.
Yeah.
Speaking of churches, I gotta look at where you went for Angel and everything.
Mm-hmm.
And my old roommate, he goes to that church off John Young Parkway, that big Orlando Baptist or whatever.
I'm sure I've seen it.
It's huge. Well, he invited me to their Christmas show, and like he was an actor in it and stuff, and I went with my other roommate who I worked with at Gatorland. You know, we were there to support, and you know, because he was asking us, and we're like, yeah, we'll go, and we went, and I didn't know what to expect. I was like, church play. We'll see how this goes.
Yeah.
You know. Well, first off, I pulled into the church. I'm like, God damn. Fucker's big. And I'm like, okay.
Appropriate.
All right. So I get in there and it's like mega. It's huge.
The Baptists do it big.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay. I'm like, this is like a legit auditorium. Like the seats are comfy as fuck. They're spaced out to where you're like not on the top of each other. It's great. So I'm like, all right, you know, whatever. There's mad people, like hundreds, and maybe even 1,000 people.
I wouldn't doubt it.
So anyway, I sit, and you know, the stage is setting up, and like, of course, we're so far back, like, you know, you can't even. It's like there looks like there's little people up there, and you know, they go through their bits and everything, and like there's this giant silver tarp like as the backdrop. And I remember him specifically saying it's called the Trees. That's the show, like the Trees. That's what they called this Christmas show. And I was like, the Trees? I'm like, okay. He's like, I'm doing Trees. Like, I'm rehearsing for Trees. He would say that all the time when we talked at home. And I'm like, oh, okay. And like they do like some bits, like there's like a piano bit and like they're singing. Like he was like one of the actors who was like, you know, pantomiming acting. Like they didn't actually talk because there were songs constantly, but they were like, you know, dancing in the park and like it was really well done. And I was like, okay, it's good production. You can tell they put a lot of work into it so far. So I'm watching it and like the music's going and like we're in a pretty good song. Like forget which song it was. It's a well-known Christmas time song and it's crescendoing. And like it's getting higher and higher and higher. It's like, oh, I know what song. Dun, 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 dun. It's that song. So it's like, you know, it's building. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, nice. You know, nice. And I realize people are singing. And I'm like, where the fuck are these singers coming from? You know, like, where are they? And then like the orchestra pit, like, or something. Like, where's the choir?
Yeah.
And right when the music crescendos at the highest point, you just hear, and that silver tarp falls like to the floor, like this massive silver tarp, huge falls to the floor, and there's two giant Christmas tree structures behind it, and all you see is little heads in the tree.
That's dope.
And that's the choir, and they're like, and I'm like, and I literally like slapping Leonard. I'm like, dude, what the fuck? I might as well be tripping right now. I am losing my mind.
That is hilarious.
So I'm losing it. I'm like, this is nuts, dude. I'm like, okay. And so like they're going through all the songs and blah, blah, blah. Well, of course, the grand finale, they do the nativity scene.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know what to expect at this point. I'm like, they're like going crazy. So then all of a sudden the nativity scene's taking place. So, you know, like and then like, I'm like, oh, it's the nativity. I'm like, okay. So like the kings are coming in, like they're all like the costumes are like crazy. They're coming in. They're all coming in like from each direction of the stage entry, like these ramps, like from the side of the room. And then all of a sudden I see some goats, real goats. And I'm like, goats. They've got real goats. And like, there's like a shepherd with these goats. And I'm like, those are real fucking goats, bro. And I'm like, damn. I'm like, okay. Donkey. Pulling a wagon. They've got a donkey. Sheep. And then I just see it. And this is when I lose my mind. A fucking camel. They had a live camel. And I'm like, they have a camel. The camel's walking in. And they've got a whole goddamn petting zoo for this nativity scene, and they're real animals. And I'm like, they're all on the stage in this church. Like, they probably shit all over the stage.
Did any of them shit?
Probably. I was just so mind blown. I'm like, how far did they take this? They got all the animals that were in the scene, and like they've got them all: sheep, goats, donkey, camel. And then I'm waiting for baby Jesus at this point, real infant. I just couldn't believe it. I just could not believe it. And then afterwards, they had this whole thing where you could go pet the animals. Like they had the whole thing set up.
I gotta go see this camel,
dude. I mean, we left. We hightailed it out of there.
I gotta get out of here
because I'm like, yo, these crowds gonna be thick.
Imagine
Let's
if
leave.
you were like Shroomin'.
That's what I'm saying. Like, imagine.
You'd have to get out of there.
I have to get out of there, bro. Because being sober, I didn't know. Like, I thought the silver tarp was background. Like, I thought that was the background on the stage.
Nothing is as it seems.
Nothing is as it seems. But anyway, I had to say that story because you were talking about going to someone else's church and you just didn't know what to expect. Well, that's kind of how it was for this one.
we have a church in town, Meadowbrook. That's where my wife and I will go sometimes. And every year they put on a Christmas show and a Easter show. I'm pretty sure they either like recruit people from Orlando Shakes, fly people in. Mm-hmm. It is, excuse me, a legit production. Way better than anything the Ocala Civic Theater puts on. And fuck Ocala Civic Theater. I'll burn that bridge right now. Just like call it something else. I don't want to perform at a place called the Civic Theater.
It's like the fucking recreational gym.
Over here we have a large elderly population, so they pick everything to cater to them. The biggest thing they ever did, I didn't go see it, was Les Mis.
At the Civic Theater?
Yeah, very musical heavy.
Yeah. Oh, they are, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's what old folk like to see.
Yeah. That's crazy. These churches, man, they do it right. I was just watching this morning, and I thought, I'll talk about this. A 2020 documentary on Jim Bakker. You ever heard of him? No?
Who is he?
He's this televangelist from the 80s.
Is it the one that like justifies flying in a private jet?
He's one of them.
Oh, okay.
The one that's
like, how am I going to do God's work? I got to fly in this thing.
Nowadays, get this. This is not a joke. This is legit. That guy who had people donate so he could get, he had like a G5 plane and he wanted a G7. And not this guy. This guy was shady. He went to prison. The Jim Bakker guy. I'll send it to you. Kevin Spacey played him in some 90s movie.
Okay.
And it was perfect. You can just see him being, like, he looks just like him too. I'm Jim Bakker. He has that Southern Frank Underwood accent.
Dude,
Anyways, one, watch that documentary. It's on Hulu. You have Hulu?
Mm-hmm.
I'll send it to you. The guy who wanted a better private jet is literally named Creflo Dollar.
The one that I brought up?
Yeah, the one who wants a better jet. His last name is literally, legally.
The one with the freaky eyes?
Yeah. His name's Creflo Dollar.
Oh, maybe that's not him.
Well,
anyway,
there's a guy who wanted a better private jet, and his last name is Dollar.
Oh, my God.
There was a show, The Real Pastors of L.A., kind of like the Real Housewives of Hollywood type shit. And they went on some talk show, Sway in the Morning. You ever watch Sway?
He's what, is he on, wait, with the dreads?
Yeah, Shade 45.
Yeah.
He's a hip-hop guy.
Yeah, I'll watch clips from him on the internet sometimes.
He's a legend.
He's a legend. He interviews all the hip-hop people and shit.
Sway's the man. Great interviewer. But naturally, and he's not afraid to like say, what the hell's really going on here? He pushed Kanye. That's where Kanye had that clip. How, Sway? You're trying to marginalize me? And he's like, Kanye. Anyways, I diverge. They were talking to these guys, and he's like, how do you justify all this? And Sway is even, I don't know if he's a religious man, but he's quoting scripture to him like, it was Jesus' own words that said, it's easier for a camel to fit through the eye of a needle than for a rich man to enter the kingdom of heaven. And how do you justify taking offering and buying a Rolls Royce? And this is another one of those things. His response just sticks in my head. I'll find it later. He says, well, Jesus rode into town on a jackass. Now, back then, a jackass was the equivalent to a Rolls Royce. Like, and then that Sway is just looking at him like,
you jackass.
Yeah.
What a fucking moron.
But they are, the whole televangelist movement is crazy. But pretty much with this Jim Bakker guy, he and his wife watch the documentary. It's a 2020 on Hulu called Unfaithfully Yours. Excellent. I'm not like the 2020s are always entertaining. Not a big. I'd rather like a real documentary. And I was thinking this should be just a fucking movie. I'd love Spacey to play him again, but that ain't gonna happen.
No, he's done.
But he is just like an expert fundraiser, expert at getting people to donate. He started the PTL Club, Praise the Lord Club, and so much shit happens. I'll try to be brief with it. He ends up, I mean, he gets like $30 million in a week. Like, he's just crazy. And then, I mean, they're super flashy. They're getting Rollses.
Good Lord.
Yeah, they're getting everything. He and his wife, Tammy Faye. And Tammy Faye is like a cartoon character. Big old hair, tons of makeup, $10,000 rings, watches, necklaces, crazy. And they're like, well, we are flamboyant. And they're preaching, the Lord wants you to be blessed. We think in modern times, Jesus would have lived this way. And it's like,
That's funny.
But it started, the problems with him started, this lady alleges that he got her in a hotel room, drugged her, and raped her. He says, well, we did have a sexual encounter, but it wasn't that way. And I admit to adultery and all this.
You goddamn sinner.
Well, that makes him step down from his role for a while. This other guy takes over. Then he starts getting indicted on mail fraud and wire fraud charges.
Oh, this
because
motherfucker.
He's taken all the money that people donate and obviously putting it into the different places, his own pocket, than what he says he's doing. And then he tries to get his church back. The guy who he had an agreement with the guy, like, you take it over till the scandal dies down, I'll come back. Okay, cool. The guy won't give it back to him. And then eventually he goes to prison. He gets sentenced to 45 years. That gets appealed and reduced. He was out in 5. Divorces Tammy Faye. Tammy Faye goes and marries the guy who started the other one.
Oh, shit.
It's like, it writes itself. It's like the perfect drama, and I could just see to get a David O. Russell type of director behind it. The guy like American Hustle. I think he did that.
Yeah.
It's just, I was fascinated by that this morning. I woke up and saw something. I was like, and I read his whole fucking Wikipedia. I'm like, is there a documentary? And like 3 weeks ago, 2020 came out. And I'm like, this was meant to happen. But in present day, he's doing it again with a new wife.
Oh my God.
And they sell doomsday buckets, preparing for end times.
Dude, they're scam artists.
That's all it is. And people are buying them.
Oh,
wherever there's a scam artist, there's a scam believer.
God, I feel bad for these people. Like,
Do
how
you
can
though?
you fall for this shit? Actually, you're probably right now. It's like, do you not have enough fucking to just see through this bullshit, especially if you know anything about the man?
I just found that to be interesting. I am at not crossroads. I'm at an interesting place with faith and spirituality and God lately. Oh shit. That's my therapist. They're calling to say, are you coming in Wednesday?
Oh, are you?
Sure.
Yeah.
Lord knows I need it. Yeah, I'm at a strange place spiritually. Addiction and then recovery and has really like wiped my slate clean of everything. And the general consensus across the board is the only way you're going to fill that void. Zack gave me a painting that he did called The Void, is spiritually. You can't keep putting these false things in it. And I can agree with that. I do think there is a spiritual aspect to the world. I'll never be an atheist. I don't even know if I'd classify myself right now as agnostic. I've got a little more faith than that of an agnostic person.
Yeah, that's kind of where I stand.
Agnostic, from what I understand, is really, I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
Atheists are no fucking way, fuck you and your theology. Agnostics are, how do I know?
That's what I feel like Jordan Peterson is.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or people like that.
Right. So, I mean, I was raised Christian. I go to the Christian church sometimes. I enjoy the community. I enjoy seeing a bunch of loving people. They're all very nice to me. But I'm really having to like check my own motives with what's going on here, because here's the funny thing. I went through a time, you knew me during some of it, where I was like a zealot. I was just for the Lord, man. We're going. I got engaged to a girl before my current wife, and we were on a crusade for the Lord. Now, I come to realize for me that an end that I've seen for other people, I think the only reason I was doing church, youth group, eventually the college youth group, was to find a fucking woman. And there's so many people that once they date somebody, they're like, hallelujah. I was that guy. And in my situation, I never understood that raise your hands to the Lord type stuff. And I'm not being a hater. I'm fully disclosing I was that guy. And I think I was a fraud.
Woo!
I'm doing it right now.
I mean, I was a fraud at Wednesday night shit too.
You were that
RAs. I was there to play kickball.
You were that skater kid who...
My cousins went, and I just joined them, went to go play kickball.
And I think that does serve a good purpose, because church, for some people, is like what fills that void for them. And who am I to say, yeah, don't do it? And I don't even really necessarily want to make fun of it.
I'm not making fun of it.
It's funny. No. Well, you're a fucking asshole who's... I think everything deserves to be poked fun at, except Islam. We love Islam. Should I cut that out?
Nah.
Back to the main point.
They're so tolerant, it's crazy.
Back to the main point. You are slipping.
There we go. All right. God, what the fuck? All right.
I know I was somewhat of a fraud when it came to going to youth group, and I was there. I'm not in my head actively like, ooh, I'm just here to find a bitch. Subconsciously, I definitely was. And then when I found...
8 years old, 10 years old? Like, how long were you doing this shit?
No, I started doing that at... oh, shit. I got to plug the laptop in. I thought it was plugged in. Did you unplug it?
I didn't unplug it. Probably Henry did. Or George.
Probably Henry. Anyways, yeah, I figured I'd share that because I know a lot of people can go through the same thing. And sometimes I feel being raised... non-denominational, non-radical Christian. Like a lot of people are just Christian. My dad and my mom are pretty devout. My dad had a rough childhood, and really the church was a big thing that took him in and gave him...
Which is a good thing, you know?
Right. It made him the man he is today.
Mm-hmm.
And he's probably a lot like your uncle, just a God-fearing man. I'm just at such an interesting time, and I don't know if you and I are in the same place. Sometimes I conveniently avoid it.
Oh yeah, no, I think we are. Like, but then again, I didn't have that upbringing. I grew up never going to church. I never went to church, and
not even like Christmas.
No.
Did you go with your grandparents, or they didn't really go?
My grandparents didn't even go. Like my grandma, the grandparents I spent the most time with, didn't really go. The only time we would go is if we went over to visit my families that live in the west coast of Florida for Easter. We'll go. Like, I'll go with them. And then when I lived in Tampa, my dad worked a lot. My aunt would watch me and my sister. So that's where the Wednesday night thing, we would go there. But, like, my dad, no. And, like, now, like, he'll go with my stepmom every now and then because my stepmom's been trying to get into it. and things like that. But like, but as far as like growing up going, like when I lived in South Carolina, Ohio, no, never did.
Yeah.
And so I feel like I got drawn to it more later in life because I've noticed it seems like people who grow kids at least who grow up like my cousins are kind of rebellious.
Yeah, they grow to resent it.
They grow to resent it, and I feel like the people who never grew up with it find it.
You're right.
And that's the trend I notice more. And but like I haven't, I still, I mean, I don't go and like, I have scripture at the house and I've read it,
There's a lot of wisdom there.
Mm-hmm. But I also think I'm a big believer where like, to me, I feel like the church is like the gym in a way for people who believe, but you can still work out at home if you wanted to. Because I feel like it's where you make it. So it's just like it's a personal thing. And I like to say it's a personal thing. I don't have to go show the world and the community what I believe in because that's kind of like what they say anyway. It's a personal relationship to begin with. So that's kind of like my mentality. So be it.
What's interesting is there is no examples in the Bible anywhere of...
And you know it better than I do because I've never read the whole thing.
Yeah, well, I went to
up.
a Lutheran school where they didn't push being Lutheran on us. It was literally like religion class was kind of Bible history class, which I enjoyed. It's neat to learn about. We had chapel. It was a very... I'm not going to say... It didn't have an agenda to it. It was just a God loves you, do the right thing type of message always. And I liked it. But there's no examples in the Bible of the church that we in the Western world execute today. There was not a set day where everybody got together, put on some nice clothes, met everybody, sang some songs, put on a happy face for everybody. Hey,
right,
Bill,
it's like a
hey,
fabricated
Bob.
thing.
The way my dad has explained it to me, and there's some people who do this, you and our significant others, and maybe like two other friends, would get together, have some Bible studies, sort of train. And then you and your significant other would go to your house. We'd go somewhere else. And then it builds from there. You see what I'm saying? Is like a group of people, then those group of people break off and start it again. And then those group of people break off and start it again, like in-home type of ministry. That's that is a closer example of what the Bible says Jesus did.
It's like grassroots marketing.
Exactly. Great marketing. And where I get hung up is, and it's not even just with religion, but if I was born in Saudi Arabia and brought up Muslim or whatever it is, I would think, well, this is it. This is the right one. Those Christians are wrong, and that's just it.
I know. That's kind of where I get hung up too.
All by chance on
where you're born and where you are.
Yeah, it's like geographically. Now, so that just leads me to like, who am I to say you're the wrong one, I'm the right one? To me, that's arrogant.
And it's all based on just trusting, and it's just you choosing to believe this one.
Yeah.
I know. And it's not like, this is not hating. This is just a very objective observation.
I'm just trying to speak.
This is just I'm going to take a step back and look at the big picture here. Mm-hmm. There's nothing wrong with that. You can still choose to believe a certain one. But you're right. At the end of the day, who are you to say, no, this is the right one?
And that, I think, is the beauty of America, is the freedom to do all those things. Now, we're entering the censorship phase or era. and I'm conflicted because those people, well, I guess they have a right to voice the fact that they want censorship, but then what they want directly conflicts with what makes America great. Sorry. You see what I'm getting at?
Yeah.
I don't know. This is maybe a topic we don't even want to dive into. I just think the freedom to do whatever the hell you want is what makes this great. And we need to stop putting our feelings above freedoms.
I know.
But a sick, twisted person can... Well, no, that's not true. I was going to say someone sick and messed up, well, I have the freedom to rape or do whatever, but we do have laws that keep some semblance of order.
Well, and then there's also a moral code.
But your moral code, like, is there a base moral code that every human subscribes to? I guess do not kill. But then I know there's got to be some cultures like that tribe in Africa who killing is what they do, and that's not immoral to them.
Or how about the one, do you remember that story, that guy who was trying to spread the gospel and he went to that tribe on
the most recent
island?
one?
Yeah, and they were like, they told him, like, don't fucking do it. Don't fucking go there.
That's just dumb.
Yeah, that's
That was
dumb.
a
He's
dumb
like,
idea.
No, but they need to hear God's... Bro, they're gonna fucking bow and arrow you.
And guess what happened?
He got bow and arrowed and drug into the woods.
Yeah. So...
It's like... it's see, and that's where it's just like, come on.
Common sense was not prevailing in that scenario. That
right.
was...
It's like, I understand what your mission is and what you're trying to do, but it's like, are you willing to die for a group of people that you're trying to break through to, which you're not going to be successful for? Or you could actually do some real work in some other countries that won't fucking slaughter you the second you show up on the doorstep.
Yeah, I think a lot of the work still needs to be done here. I admire the missionaries who go to China. I love China. I love China. Our awful Trump impressions.
Guarantee it's not awful.
But I do find something admirable in that. Dedicating your life to something, they have purpose. And while we can step back and look at that guy who got killed as like, you know what, you're just a dummy. I mean, he lived and ultimately died.
Fulfilling what he felt was his purpose.
And his purpose. And there's not many Christians. Christianity, I don't know if it's the most popular religion. It's either that or...
I feel like it is.
Muslim. There's a lot of Muslim people.
There is. There's like, I think...
Those are probably...
like 1 billion?
Yeah, it's probably the top two.
Yeah.
And I think really a lot of Americans or Europeans, anybody would just, oh yeah, I'm a Christian. What's one verse from the Bible? Thou shalt not kill.
Yeah, exactly.
So I think that's the base where Muslims, I can't imagine there's a lot of lukewarm Muslims. There's radicals, but there's radical Christians.
Mm-hmm.
Westboro Baptist. Their website is literally godhatesfags.com.
That's literally
their go. I don't even want it on my fucking search history.
Oh, that's so fucking horrible.
They are the ISIS equivalent. I don't even know if ISIS identifies with an ideology, to be honest.
Anymore? Or
I don't know if it was ever rooted in that.
In Islam?
Yeah, I don't, or if they were just rogue people from that area.
I mean, I'm pretty sure that they would say things that led to people to believe that.
Well, there's radical Islam, there's radical Judaism, there's radical...
no matter which way you dice it, there's going to be a radical in something.
Correct. So, I don't even know what I'm getting at. I'm just kind of talking.
We're somewhat savanting it.
Yeah, and I think we sound pretty damn good sometimes. There's sentences where I get like halfway through, I'm like, oh shit, I kind of sound like I know what I'm talking about. And then it hits me. I'm like, right.
Right. So,
before we go, I wanted to bring this up earlier, and then a piss break ruined it. What's up with your shirt?
Oh, yeah. Peep it, peeps. Oh, it's got Henry's hair all over it, so it's very appropriate. I just want to give a shout out to this shirt company that infiltrated my feed on Instagram, and they got me. They hook, line, and sinked me. Arm the Animals. And as soon as I saw Arm the Animals, I was like, fuck yeah, let's arm the animals.
And the logo is a gorilla with an AK-47.
Yes, and brass knuckles. And it just says Arm the Animals, Rescue, Defend, Clothing Co. And it's got a gorilla, with an AK-47 and a pair of brass knuckles. And it's badass. I like what they stand for.
What do they stand for?
Rescuing and defending animals. All the proceeds, or a portion of the proceeds, go to animal rescue and things like that. So if you can, support them and buy a shirt. They have good deals all the time.
Yeah.
I got one for me, one for Sky, and I love this shirt. Fits great, too.
I just had a birthday, and I didn't get one.
No, I painted you a painting.
I don't really care about that.
I'll take it home.
I want it.
No.
Zachary.
Why don't you hang it up next to this?
I've got a good...
Where, like on top of the toilet or some shit?
Yeah, that little area where there's no light. I
don't give a fuck what you do
take
with
my
it.
wife.
I mean, I actually like that painting. It's one of my favorites. So.
I like it. Thank you for thinking of me and realizing, oh shit, it's his birthday. Let me
After the fact, I was like, oh shit,
let
I
me
should
go
probably
in
give
here
him some.
and
Yeah.
it would have meant more if you painted it for me. Can you paint me like one of your French girls? Anyways, Arm the Animals, not a sponsor. Maybe we'll be one day. Who knows? But good cause, cool shirts. I mean, it's not just a good, like, that's a dope design.
I know. That's their main logo.
A lot of these places, it's like they have a good cause, but like, dude, who is your graphic designer?
I know.
This looks pretty badass.
And like, this is like chill. Like some of their other shirts, they have like, I mean, they literally have like full on pictures of like cats, like holding up like Grim Reaper staff.
Nice.
And they've got like another one. They just came out with the Friday the 13th one. He's wearing like the mask.
I'm all about it.
Yeah.
I think that's dope.
Dope shit.
All right. That's about an hour and a half. Hour 20. Who gives a fuck?
All right, I'm out.